What's up, y'all? This is Aaron Gordon here, and we are back here with Aaron Gordon Podcast. Welcome my special guest, KK. We all call her KK, but it's Kristina Knowles from the Bahamas. She is my cousin, and yeah, she does not play basketball. She is actually a track star. So, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good. How are you?
Pretty solid, pretty solid. So, like I said before, she's from the Bahamas. What was that experience like growing up in the Bahamas? But specifically, you're not from Nassau, Bahamas. You're from Eleuthera.
Yeah, let's really just focus on Eleuthera because every time people talk about the Bahamas, they always just think, Nassau. So the island I grew up on, very small. I wouldn't say it was boring though, to where there's nothing to do, but definitely like you had to make your own fun. Everyone kind of know everyone. Going to school was like fun in a way because that's where you saw your friends, and then the weekends you kind of just doing your own thing, or like you're not really with your friends. So that was one thing I enjoyed about like being on the island or going to school. But it was cool. I feel like I grew up in like growing up on the island, like you grew up with this like family aspect, like where your community rooting for you, like aside from your family, the island is almost like a family. Not always, because you still have your little bit of mess, but when you're doing good, of course, everybody loves you and everybody rooting for you. And and when you pass, it'll give you some like advice on where you is on your journey.
So what was it like getting into track, especially being from Eleuthera? What was that process like for you, just kind of getting started? Like, where did the love fall in, and how did that kind of just fall into fruition?
Good question, because nobody else like in my household or like my grandparents' children or grandchildren, none of them are athletes. I would say like every year you have, your sports day, you in your different houses and like you compete. Some years I would like win my races. I used to sprint back in the day, like in primary school, elementary school, like 100, 200. And some year when you won at your school, like you would represent like your school on all island like sports. Some years I made it, some years I didn't. I didn't really care though. It was like either I made it or I didn't. And in grade 6, like my last year in elementary school, because elementary, which we call primary school, goes from K4 to grade 6, and then afterwards high school to grade 7 to grade 12. 6th grade, I ended up like running for my school, and then on the all island meet, I got like 4 medals. I think I came second overall in the 200. Once again, running the 100, which I don't do those events anymore. I do not sprint. Long jump, but once you won on the island, which is Eleuthera, you got to go to Nassau for nationals and compete against the whole Bahamas. So after that all island meet, I got selected to go to Nassau to represent Eleuthera. And I came across, a track coach scouted me, I guess, in Eleuthera. His name is Ken Amaki. That was my first track coach, someone I still keep in contact with to this day. Reached out to me, and my parents was like, she's really good. And it was like, okay, like, he's like, let me train her like 3 days a week. So that's really how I got involved in track. I went to Nassau, ran a 200, didn't even make it to finals, but I'm like, whatever, like, this is cool. Like, that was the first, at 10, that was the first time I even learned about like really track and field, like actually seeing a track in person, getting spikes. Someone's like, you need to run in spikes. You can't run in your socks. I'm like, okay, like, let's get the spikes in. It's all new. And then people like, oh, you need warm-up pants. I'm like, okay, like my parents just got the stuff for me. But that's pretty much how I got into it. And then 7th grade, like running was like a community thing or a social thing. So everybody wanted to stay. Like I said, school was a social thing where you got to see everyone on the town because the island is so long. It's 110 miles long. Our school was split up between like 5 or 6 settlements, towns. So you wanted to be around people. You wanted to be at school. You wanted to be in the after school running just to be with your friends. So once I got to 7th grade, I transitioned out of the 100 and 200 into the 400 and 800. I was still go to the coach Kenamaki, drive 40 miles every day with my dad after school to Greencastle, Eleuthera. I was from Palmetto Point, Eleuthera, with the Central. I used to drive 40 miles, like I said, south to Greencastle just to practice every day.
How long did that take?
40 minutes, like 35 minutes.
Dang.
Yeah, so after school, I would go up there, or sometimes I would stay. Depends. Sometimes I used to stay down for like the PE.
Mhm.
Oh no, not like the PE practices, not really though. But most of the time, I would go way down there with my dad after school. School got out like 3 p.m. and practice, and I did that every year till 12th grade. I transitioned to the 400 and 800 some years I'll do the 800 and 1500. But really I got into it. I think back and I'm like, Ken Mackey, like he's the reason why I got into track. Like I said, sometimes I used to win, sometimes I used to lose, but I never took it like seriously. It was just like, okay, this is fun. I would say maybe 10th grade or 9th grade is when I really fell for it. I used to play tennis at the same time. So some days after high school, I would go from school 40 miles to track practice, come back down, and then go play tennis because to play tennis at the same time and do tennis practice, and then come back home and go do my homework.
That's
And
crazy.
for track meets, yeah. And then every weekend I used to travel to Nassau for track meets, or sometimes I go to Nassau for track meets and tennis meets, or Freeport, Grand Bahama. And then I transferred, I fit a lot of tennis, like 10th grade. My mommy was like, okay, y'all not taking this serious. I was like, well, if I gotta pick a sport, I pick in track, you know?
Yeah.
And I used to be at track meets so much in Nassau that people thought I was from there until I made my first Carifta team, which is like where all the Caribbean islands compete against each other. When I finally made that team, like that's when people finally like knew like who exactly I was. People knew of me, but didn't know me because I was quiet and shy around the track. I would come there, run. I had like one or two couple friends, not really. I was so quiet, and I would just leave. And people thought I was from Nassau. People was like, "You talk a lot." I'm like, "I know I talk a lot, but I don't know y'all." So I ain't talking to y'all. I don't know y'all. But they always knew me as the girl who ran for Stridus. That's the track club I was a part of, which I just joined to make friends. And with the 2 ponytails. So my signature look was I ran with 2 ponytails most of my high school career. So they just knew, you mean the girl who's running with the 2 ponytails and the lime green shoes? Like, yeah, that's how they knew me, but that's about it. I talked a lot. I said a lot.
No, you're all good. You're all good. So what was it like when you had to transition from the United States to the Bahamas? Was that like from the Bahamas to the United States, what type of transition was that like, off the field as well as on the field? What was that, kind of just a transition?
Right. I would say, let's go with expectation versus reality first. So, because it was totally different. Coming out of high school, my last year in high school, I actually trained myself. My coach, the year before that, I made the Carifta team. Cool. The year after that, going into my senior year of high school, I was the top 800-meter runner in the country, battling between first and second with this other girl who was really good from Freeport. And I just knew like that was just gonna be like the year I needed. Like, yeah, I made Carifta before. A lot of times I ran very conservative, but I started running more aggressive, more confident and everything else. So I was really excited going into my senior year. My coach, he had his own personal issues, so he stopped training me. So yeah, my last year, I pretty much did my workouts myself. My dad just saw them. And coming out of my senior year, a lot of people didn't think I wanted to run track post high school, like out of high school. I didn't really look into it too much. I didn't really understand like the NCAA or, how that process works. I have 2 older sisters, so they went to school, but they went to school in Canada. So I just thought like, you just apply to school and then, I don't know, like, I don't know. But there was some like portal or something anyway, besides that. So when I applied to a couple of schools, got accepted, some in Florida, some in Louisiana. And I always heard about Oregon, and I was like, that's Tracktown USA. Like they have this like phenomenal, distance program. I run the 800. I came out of school running 800, 1500, primarily like middle distance. That's what I made the career team for, was the I qualified for the 800, but I ran the 1500.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is where I want to go. So before the deadline, I applied, and I don't know if because for some reason, because I had a Bahamian address, like my application would not go through, they would not accept it. So I'm like, whatever, this ain't meant to be. Yeah, I could not complete my application process. And I was like, whatever, like, I'm not stressing myself about it. 2 months passed. The deadline, I was at my chiropractor in Nassau, and he was like, have you looked into Oregon? I'm just like, man, I wanted to go there, but like, I can't, my application process couldn't go through. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, it's a good school. I had some people telling me like, no, don't go to that school. I'm like, okay, but in my head, I'm just like, this is the dream school. Like, this is where I want to be. Yeah. This is what I need. This is the coaching I need. This girl's running way faster than I ran, but I believe that that's a program I need to get me to where I want to be in my track career. Like I said, 2 months have passed. I'm like, okay, let me try this application process again. I'm gonna do it again. And I don't know if I just made up an address or what, because I can tell you the address was the reason why it didn't work. Or I just, in the Bahamas, we don't have zip codes. Like, I just put 5 zeros for a zip code or something. But I applied. 2 months later, I still sent the application process. The entire thing, write a personal essay about myself, etc. And I remember I was at my Grammy shop one day, and my mom was like, you have 2 letters here, one from whichever school it was in Louisiana, and one from Oregon. And I was just like, okay, let me open the next one first. Like, let me see. Just nervous. And then I opened the Oregon one, I got accepted, and I just screamed. I'm like, I got in, like, instantly. I'm just like, this is where I go in. Like, this is where I'm going. I had, like I said, people told me, it's like, you sure you want to go there? Like, you sure? Like, my mentor on track at the time, he was like, you got to work hard. And for me, I was like, hard work ain't an issue for me. Like, I work hard. Like, that's not my thing. I don't know what I'm doing. That's really, I feel like in the initial ages of my track career, it's just like me just figuring it out, or even the middle part too. Like, I feel like now, where I am now, I know what I'm doing. Before, it was just like a lot of trial and error, figuring out on my own, not really having the guidance that I would have liked in the sport. And I was just like, I'm doing that. Like, hard work. Like, okay, tell me what else. Tell me something else that, I need to know to deter me from going there. Like, And I always wanted to go to a big school. Like, some people say go small first and big. I'm like, no, I'm doing it big. Like, I want to go to a big school. Like, forget the big.
But you were what? How old were you?
I was 16.
That is a very, you know what's so funny? So my mother, people who know this, my mother's from Nassau, Bahamas.
Right.
Her first day when she turned 16, she was on a college campus. Like, that is really unique. So, how did that play an effect in just your entire experience there, being 16 on a college campus?
I didn't think about it. I mean, I had the other students talking about, like, you're such a baby, you're such a baby. And I turned 17 in that summer. So my freshman year I was 17.
And that's
still, but I didn't think about it though. I was just always such a focused person. I know what I want. And I didn't really see obstacles. I didn't really see trials. Like, whatever it is, I'm gonna get to my goal. That I didn't see as a thing. And only as time went on, and I think back by the time I got to like my junior, senior year, and I realized I was 19, 20, about to graduate, and people in their freshman year, I'm just like, have I been played? Like, what do you mean to tell me I needed more development before I got into like this collegiate program? Mm-hmm. I didn't think I was doing the impossible. When I look back, I'm like, yeah, you was. Like, you went from not just Nassau, Bahamas, where they have the coaching, where they have the facilities, where, you have the gear, you have everything you need, the treatment. Like, we don't have no physical therapist or chiropractors anymore. Like, you just ice, like whatever it is, you ice, you go in the salt water. And then I went to Oregon, where you had everything at your fingertips, but I didn't know anything, Yeah. So my freshman year, I got like 3 major injuries in 3 months. Like, I couldn't stay healthy for anything. My sophomore year, I wasn't on the team because, like I said, the injuries just took me out my whole freshman year, that I had to take time, honestly, to just strengthen myself, get myself back. And in that sophomore year, I kind of like was like, this ain't working for me. I went from, doing track, and when I say track workouts, I mean grass workouts in Eleuthera to Oregon, where I was running sometimes 9 miles a day, barely hitting the track, doing something called fartleks, where you run 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off, like a bunch of long distance stuff that my body really wasn't used to. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't used to running on all these different surfaces. It was a huge change. When I think about it too, it was like, here I am thinking like all of us on this like, new adventure, and then not even realize I was training with people who parents was Olympians and, who grew up literally in track and field. Like, this ain't nothing new to them. I'm just here figuring out like in some movie where the wind blowing, it's just like, let life begin. And it was hard. I remember, like I said, my freshman year, I remember going to sleep and I was like, God, if this for me, wake me up tomorrow. If it ain't for me, I don't care, because it was just that hard. And the hardest thing was not being able to do what you want to do. Like I said, I went there like hard work, piece of cake, let's do it. And then not having the ability to perform was the most difficult thing. And it was a lot. It's a lot. Like being in it, I'm just like, okay, the age was a factor. The different environment was a factor. I mean, my whole life up until 16, I lived in Eleuthera. I decided to go not just to Florida, not to Houston, like not to why I moved to Houston afterwards, like not with anyone on the East Coast. I went way to the West by myself to be like, let's do this. Not knowing, because no one told me anything, that's a lot of changes, I don't regret anything. I feel like everything happens for a reason, but had I known a lot of different things back then that I know now, maybe I would have done it a little bit different.
So what was your transition like to going to Houston? Because obviously Houston is a very different city for anyone, but, especially someone from Eleuthera. What was it like going to a top 4 largest city in the United States from then on?
Once again, not even thinking about it. Like all I was looking at, like, I wanted to go somewhere warm. I wanted to go somewhere that not many people knew me. I just feel like, when a lot of people, like I didn't want to go anywhere where there was a lot of Bahamians, just because sometimes we could be messy people. Like we as Bahamians are messy. And like, as I'm trying to figure it out, I do not need anybody toting my struggle back home. Like, let me figure it out. Let me have that peace of mind at least to figure out what is going on, because I left home thinking I was going to make it big, and I went completely off grid. When I got to Houston though, I liked it. Like I feel like in the first 4 months, I felt like I had been there for years. Like even how quick I got along with the team, how included I felt. The training, once it went back to like more like shorter stuff, like not the 9 miles. I wasn't doing that anymore, which was better for me, because mentally I wasn't used to that either, like physically nor mentally. That just didn't work for me. Like I'm not used to like very long distance workouts. I enjoyed Houston, like the coaching, the team, the unity of the team. And then I became a city girl. Like,
oh my gosh, here we go with this.
I became a city girl. Like, we used to be out, and nothing I was ever used to. When I think about it now, I'm just like, man, you was really out on the town. Like, y'all out on the Tuesday night, Taco Tuesday,
Let me just humble you and tell you that you're an island girl at heart. So don't all this.
No. I never dissed in the islands. Like, I'm always an island girl first.
Yeah.
I adopted the city though. I always say I got love for the city. Like when I go back home, as an island girl, I don't never like cut my accent, nothing. Like you could take me as I am, and I can stand up for my island. But I became more city as well. Like my sister, she always be like, you changed. I'm like, I know, I am still an island girl, but I also have this addition to me now too.
You got an addition to you now.
I got an addition to me now too.
And you were down there when Megan Thee Stallion was going crazy and all this, and the city girls. That's just a weird sort of combination. So yeah, it kind of is. So like I said, you were down there for that sort of transition. What was it like during the pandemic?
The pandemic was good for me. So I Going into 2020, at the beginning of 2020, I was in Houston, training, still kind of at a difficult point because I had all this pressure of, that's Olympic year. And a lot of people are looking at you like, okay, like this year, yeah, you're going to make it. And I knew it wasn't my year. But here's this journey that I've been on for so long and struggling for so long, fighting for so long. And here's the Olympics rolls around again. You want to make it. Everybody wants you to make it. Everyone knows that's why I still am pursuing track and, to this day. Mm-hmm. And, there's this expectation from everyone, I feel like, except my coach. Like, he knew it wasn't my year either. But, when you have family and then like other supportive systems, like, okay, like, what you running? And like, no, I ain't hitting those times yet. And they're like, what's going on? I'm like, it's just not my time right now. Like my whole collegiate career, I had stress fractures, tendonitis, a lot of injuries that my body still was getting over. And like, with injuries, you don't just, bounce back right away. Like, it takes you a while to get back to, get further than you was, back to where you was, and then improve on that. So at the beginning of the year, I was under all that pressure. And my sister, she pretty much is a person, like, if you had to pick someone who has walked with you throughout your whole like athletic journey, that person would be my sister Keshe, through all the highs and lows. Like, she know everything. And she was in Houston with me at the time. And she was like, when was the last time that you felt like you heard God? Like, you knew exactly what God wanted you to do. I was like, Eleuthera. And then she's like, well, you need to go back to Eleuthera. I'm like, I can't go back to Eleuthera. Like, my whole life is in Houston right now. I can't just tell my coach, like, yeah, I need to figure this out. I need to go to Eleuthera. Like, I got to go. I was like, I can't do that, but I know I need to go back there to hear him again. And like, I kid you not, like a week later, that's when the whole like pandemic hit, and people just started like, the grocery store is empty. People started freaking out. That's when I came to the US. That was March. And like, it just got bad, and she was about to go home. My mommy was trying to convince me to come home. And I was like, no, I can't come home. It's harder to feed 5 people versus me, one over here. Like, if they start like exporting stuff to you through, what are they gonna do for me? Anyway, I ended up going home because, everything was shutting down. At least I thought Houston was going to shut down. The Bahamas shut down. So I got trapped down there once I got there. Like, like 4 days later, the Bahamas shut down. So the whole pandemic, 2020 year, I was in Eleuthera, but it was so good for me. Like, I only could do basic stuff. It was like literally the year back to the basics, like falling in love with running and like literally doing like body circuits, like running on the beach again, running the sand again, like enjoying it, and also doing so much little things that my body needed, strengthening areas that like became weak over the years. And I didn't have the pressure of, okay, I have a track meet, this weekend I'm preparing for, I need to hit a certain time, I need to keep up with the other girls. Like, it wasn't anything. It was just do what you need to do and do it in your own comfort. And in the place where you fell in love with the sport anyway, like where you knew what you wanted to do, who you wanted to be, where I just, like I said, I felt like that's where I felt God. And it was good. Like, I became so much more lean. Like, in school, I was skinny, but I wasn't. My sister always said, you look like someone who said they trying to run track. And when I look back at pictures now, I'm just like, girl, you were skinny, but you did not look like an athlete. Like, why your cheeks so chubby? Like, your abs coming and going. Like, it's not given. I want to be a professional athlete. So that's when I really feel like I took it a lot more serious, but not even like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I just was going to sleep one time. I couldn't go out. I wasn't a city girl. It wasn't we gotta go to the spot on
You ain't
Friday.
have no choice.
I had no choice. Everything closed down. Like, literally everything was closed down on the island. Like, you at a home or you on the beach. And at one point they banned the beaches too. So I had no choice but to just lock in and focus. And it was, like I said, it was really good for me. I feel like that was the year where I saw my first breakthrough for the first time since 2013.
So what was it like transitioning into your professional career? Because obviously you know, being in college and being a pro are two totally different things. So what was it like when you were transitioning into being a professional? What was the mindset, you know, twisting into being a professional, you know, specifically in track?
I feel like my mindset didn't change until that 2020 year. So
Mhm.
I graduated from my undergrad program in 2017, but I saw eligibility.
Mhm.
And so I went enrolled in my master's program so I could use my eligibility. I graduated in 2019. 2018 was my actual last collegiate year.
Mhm.
But when into 2019, I should have had a 6 year, but compliance messed up my eligibility at UH. So I was still on the team. Like they kind of worked out to where I could still train with the team. I just couldn't compete for UH anymore. Mid-January, I had like a little, I guess, like minor injury again, but I had fears that it was going to be a stress fracture again. I just stopped showing up to practice. I literally was like, I can't do this again. Like I can't be the girl walking in the training room again or in the whole athletic building, like you in a boot again. Like someone told me that before, it was like, you in a boot again? I just saw you yesterday walking around fine. I know, I didn't want to deal with that because it just, here and I don't know, it felt like, I feel like I felt the pressure of injured again, Kristina. Like, what are you
Mhm.
doing at this point? Or like, what's not working out? Like, what lesson I ain't learning? So 2019 should have been like my first professional year, I guess, but it also
Mhm.
was my collegiate year, so it's weird. And midway through that, I ended up getting like a ankle sprain, so I didn't really have that first professional year. 2020 would have been my professional year. The pandemic hit,
Yeah.
so it was like a weird 2 years transition, and like I didn't have the full transition, especially because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
When things started to actually like the beginning of 2020, things actually started like, okay, my practice was getting better. I feel like, you know, I was improving on my times. Like everything started looking like it was coming together, and the whole world shut down. The whole world froze. So coming back, I came back to Houston at the beginning of 2021, which is halfway through the training season, the beginning of track season. That was like my first professional year, even though I didn't really, that last year I didn't train. Last year I didn't compete. I was still just training. I competed in one meet, just doing like body weight stuff. Like literally I was training at the park the whole year, 2021.
Mhm.
But I ran a PR by me just training in the park. So it was still, that year was just discipline. That year was I guess mental training, fixing, fine tuning, and fixing things with my coach. You know, during the pandemic year, I did stuff on my own. He was in Houston.
Mhm.
When I came back, it was like fixing all those things to run better, to a lot of sacrifice, I guess, to ensure the longevity of my career, that I don't get hurt anymore. You know, most of my collegiate career, in fact, my entire collegiate career was injuries. So I was creating a plan to prevent that, or prevent as many injuries, something that could keep me in the game and keep my confidence. Because I mean, you get knocked out so many times before you be like, okay, I've had enough.
Yeah.
And I think this year, which has been my first season, like literally full healthy season, minor hiccups, like nothing that ever took me out of the season. Like I competed consistently healthy. This entire track season was the year I needed, where it was just like, okay, God, I still supposed to be in this. Like it was just the year I needed to be like, you supposed to be here. I'm not trying to knock you out. Yeah, you've
Mhm.
had a lot of hard, rough years, a lot of struggles, a lot of times you wanted to quit, but you here for a reason. You kept going for a reason, and let me show you why. So like I said, I stopped going out. I stopped, staying up late, like 9 o'clock. I would try and go to sleep. I started hydrating more. I started rehabbing more. I started stretching more. Like the entire mentality changed. And I remember my coach wife, she had said to me early in the season, like at a practice, she was like, "Girl, you've been playing with us. We could have been on a Bahamas team." And my coach said, no, she couldn't do it. And I'm like, no, I really couldn't do it because, yeah, physically it was one thing, but mentally I wasn't ready to do it either. Like when I came back in 2021, I kind of came up with the mentality like, this is my life, this is my story. Nobody gonna write it for me. Nobody gonna hand
Mhm.
it out to me. Nobody is going to pity me with my struggles and say, oh, you've had a hard journey. let me give you this grace card. No, like I had to work for it. And it came in phases, because sometimes when I thought something was hard and I was struggling doing it, I would overcome it, and then it'll get harder, but then I would adjust to it. I kept adjusting to more training. This year, 3 days out of the week, I train 3 days a week. And in the past, like 2 years ago, when I thought about, okay, if your training ever increased, like, would you be able to do it? I don't know if I'd be able to do it or not, but it came in such a, they say everything nothing happens before it's time. It came in like a timely manner. So I was practicing 3 days a week, but I just did it, I can't say it didn't affect me, because some days I'd be like, okay, I am tired, but I did it like consistently, like I said, it was like, you could do it. Like, I feel like God finally gave me the green light to be like, yeah, you could do all this mileage, you can do all this training, and I will keep you healthy for it. And I will finally grant you the access to go back home and compete in nationals and let people know, like, no, I have not retired. No, I have not quit. Yes, I don't post about it, but I am still in it. And I am going to reach my goals. And everything just happens for a reason. And I can't really say an entire reason, only God knows, but I believe like my journey has been my journey. For the story, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a really unique way to look at it. And I know that kind of brings you back to a certain point in your life, because I think a lot of times people always are looking for validation. And I think that with you, you're more doing it for yourself and not others. And I think sometimes that's where you kind of get that sort of feeling, because a lot of people ask me, why don't you post basketball all the time? Like, and I think obviously I would get more views, but I think for me, like, I like to have my professional journey kind of, more closed off and quiet. And I like speaking to other people about, their shared experiences, because I think that's what social media should be for, is good shared experiences, not kind of just like a flex or whatever.
Right.
That stuff is okay every once in a while, but I think social media should definitely be more of, shared experiences, different things that people are going through, not necessarily just like a highlight reel every single time.
Right. I agree with you. I am sorry, not to even cut you off, because in a recent post I did on Instagram, like after nationals, I had said how, I used to be the girl always posting like, we have practice, I recording the team. And I became the girl to be like, no, I just, this is personal. Like, I never embarked on this journey to prove anyone wrong. I just want to prove myself right. I just always believe that I can be an Olympian one day. This is what I want to do. I don't need the outside noise. I don't need, the fan support system. It's nice when you have it. And I experienced that. Like, when I finally posted about it, I got such a wide flood of support. I'm just like, oh, like people still do support me, but I closed that off, because like you said, like it's personal, and sometimes you just need to give. I feel like when you continue on your journey, when it's hard, you learn different keys and different tools and experiences that is like the key for other people's story, and that's why I feel like everyone, should keep going when it gets hard. Like when it gets hard, it's like, that's not when you give up. Like, that's when you prove like, okay, I can surpass this barrier. And then here's how I did it. Now you take it if you want to. If you don't, then that's okay too.
So now you are experiencing being a life coach. Obviously, with your story, you could see why you would want to be a life coach. So I'm gonna ask you kind of the same question. Why did you want to be a life coach, and overall, how is that going for you? When did you all get this started? By the way, check out her website, Kristina Knowles, coaching.com.
So fun fact, I didn't want to be a life coach. That was never something I chose to do, wanted to do, aspired to do. Deshauna Barber, former Miss World or Miss USA, she has this quote where she says that sometimes purpose falls into your lap. And when I was in 2019 going through, transitioning off my track team, also graduated from my master's program, also wanted to quit my master's program because my grandmother had passed away, also motivated myself to get a 4.0 because education was the most important thing. So I felt like that was me giving her flowers. I reached out to Tony Gaskins, which is a world-renowned life coach. And I just shared him like, Yeah.
I met him actually at the NBA camp, and that was a really,
Oh,
really cool
wow.
guy. Yeah, he's a really good dude.
Agreed. Like, yeah, agreed.
Hmm.
I kind of just shared a video I had. Like, I used to post these 1 minute clips, motivational videos on my Instagram, and I sent it to a lot of like different news people because I did journalism. So I was like, I want to be a journalist, and I sent it to him. And out of everyone I sent it to, he was the only person to respond. Was like, "Keep going, sis. You got something." And I was like, "What? Like, what do you mean? Like, you actually watched the video? I didn't even expect you to respond, but I kind of just was sending it out anyway, whether people responded or not."
Yeah.
And I got on a coaching call with him, just asking questions, just sharing my own story. Like, he literally started off as like, "So what's your story?" And I'm just like, "Well, that's different. Like, what is my story?" And at the end of the call, he gave me my life. Like, he gave me, you have to pay for it. And like, he gave me the coaching, allow me to do the certification for free is what I'm saying. Like, hey, take this coaching certification. Like, you can be a life coach. I didn't even know what life coaching was. I didn't even know that he was a life coach. Like, I watched, I follow his page. I love the posts. I listened to his posts. I didn't know his actual job was he was a life coach. And it was like, hey, get certified for this.
Yeah.
And I did I did the whole process. I did the courses to become a certified life coach. And I'm like, I didn't come here for that. Like, I didn't know what it was, but I'm just like, purpose really sometimes does fall into your lap because, not even realizing that was a career or anything. Kind of my whole life, like, I've been the person that everyone comes to for their advice or like, their next move or, like I said, I was always posting these 1 minute motivational clips, inspiring people to keep dreaming, keep believing, like figuring it out. And I completed, I guess, June of 2019. And that's pretty much how I got into coaching. And I don't know, I've done coaching calls and stuff, but then I also, when I came back this year, I felt like that was just something that needed to be on pause right now. Like, your journey this season was, okay, you finally have your green light for track, like you're healthy, like you have this window that I just knew I needed to go through with. I just needed to be an athlete. I just needed to be a full-time professional athlete. And something I've been aware of is like, when you're used to certain patterns, it's hard not to follow them. And I felt like when me wanting to do a lot of things this year was me just trying to repeat a pattern that I was used to with training, school, working. It was like, this is your comfort zone. Like, you think it's a lot on your plate, but it's your comfort zone. Take away these things and actually put 100% into one thing, and let's see how it goes. And I'm good.
That's a good, kind of mindset to go by. And another thing that you are into 100% that I've seen before, that you're a poet. What's that experience like for you? And how'd you get into that?
Poetry has been probably the most fun, freeing, new adventure that I have embarked on. Out of everything, I feel completely myself. So I apparently, well, not even apparently, when I was in high school, I would write like little poems here and there, but never really, that's just like, oh, let me get my poem to my friend. Like, let me write this poem, just because, but I never really took it serious or thought about it. I got into poetry last year. One day last year, I feel like I was going through a lot personally, like a lot of personal development. And one day I was kind of just walking around my apartment and I just started just reciting poetry, like my own poems. Like, I just said it out loud. Like, I was just speaking out loud and it was poetry. And I'm like, okay, write it down. Like, I think most people, I don't know, I guess most people like write their poems before they recite them.
Yeah.
But me, I started reciting them before I started writing them. And I got into it because I was just angry. Like, literally my first poem I wrote came from a place of hurt and anger. And I just continued doing it. Like, not even intentionally. Like, one day it just came and I just like, okay, like, the more I kept writing, the more I started posting about it. The first two poems I probably wrote, I still have never written about them. I mean, posted them, because for me, poetry, well, at least my poetry, come from a very vulnerable place. And I try to, not even try to, it's all realness. So it's truth in what I write about. I always, like, anything I've posted has been something I've either experienced, something I've witnessed, and something I know other people can relate to. So I feel like most of my poems I wrote about last year was trauma related. And I just articulate in a way where it's like, you feel seen, but it's not just like me preaching towards you. Like I'm telling my story. I'm telling someone else's story. It's like storytelling, but making it poetry. And this year I've been writing more, I guess, lighter poems, like love poems and stuff like that. Because the trauma stuff, they speak truth, but it's a lot of truth between, I mean, I just don't want people to come to my page where you feel sad, like, I want to give people hope. That's why I started speaking to begin with. Like, I want to give people to have something to feel like, good about themselves, or something to look forward to. And, I want to be the page that you come to where you just need some type of light or some type of inspiration. You don't want to give up. And I also want, people to feel seen and people to feel heard and felt, because like society over the years has, made everyone feel kind of, I guess, suffocated, or you have to be this picture perfect person, and you have to post a certain way or do a certain thing. And then, where do you actually go when you just want to like let your shoulders down and you want to unclench your jaw and you just want to breathe and feel like, okay, I'm not the only one out here just not okay or not figuring it out. And poetry allows me to express myself and come to that vulnerable light, and also open up the space for other people to do the same. And like, you may not be the person always commenting, you may not be the person liking it, but each piece is for someone.
Yeah. Dang, that's really powerful. It's crazy how like you don't like I think people, because for me, obviously, like I do podcasts, that's how I kind of get the message out. But it's kind of crazy how I think everybody in the world has something that they can offer somebody else, and I think that that's really powerful, just with all the stuff that you're doing with just poetry and life coaching and being a professional athlete. Like, that's a lot on your plate, but I think you're giving everyone that's around you something, and that's what I think is really valuable.
I feel like everyone in life has a gift, and more than one gift, but you have one specific gift that's like the big thing. Like you have, I feel like like everyone has a lot of purposes, but it's like, you may not know, but it's like one specific thing that's like the greatest thing. And I personally, like, I'm on a track journey, but my gift is words. So like, even people will ask me like, okay, like, what's your goal? I'm like, I want to make it to the Olympics. It's like, okay, then what? Then I want to write my story. Once again, with me being on that journey, it's like my gift in my running is my words. When I was in high school, and I'll forget, I was at a track meet in Andres. Fun fact, Andres doesn't even have a track, you run on concrete. It's a big meet I love to go into, and we won like the 4x4 at the end. And me and my team was so excited, from Central Luther High School. And at the end of the race, after like me and my teammates were celebrating, like out of nowhere, I was like, they know our name, her, where we from, 2012 Olympics, here we come. At that time, I'm like 13 or 14. And once again, I know nothing about the Olympics. I know of the Olympics. I don't know nothing about qualifying times, nothing about college, or nothing about the process. I'm just like, 2012 Olympics, here we come. When I think back when I look at where I am now on my track journey in poetry, and I think back to, that was like 2010, when I said that with my team, they know our name, her, we from 2012 Olympics, here we come. I was like, poetry was always with me. Like, I never saw it though. Like, I never sat long enough to be like, this is your gift. Like, this is something, like, words is your gift. Like, this is something you're really good at, because I was always focused on, I run, I'm an athlete, I'm like, but that was always there with me. And they often say that your gift is always there with you, but you just don't, no one teaches you how to find it, or you don't know what you're looking for. And Tony Gaskins, once again, I remember doing the course, and in the course he had said that, people often think that your passion will lead you to your purpose. And he was like, it's your gift leads you to your purpose. I kid you not, I remember reading them, just like, someone didn't tell Tony what the truth was. It's your passion.
Yeah.
And it took me years later to realize like, it is your gift. And here I am just so stubborn, like not even realizing, like not taking that advice. And, you know, with growth in time, it's like, he was right. It is your gift. And I can say that through my own experience now. And like I said, like, you don't always adhere to that advice. It doesn't sound as cool as passion leads you to your purpose, like the two P's. But it is your gift. It is your gift. And that's a secret that not everyone knows, or it's not shared that often.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Where do people follow you at? Whether it be Twitter, Instagram, where should people go follow you at? And obviously, you know, shout out your own coaching website. Okay,
so y'all can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Blooming with KK, like blooming with the flowers, like blooming, like blooming. Blooming. I don't stress it, like blooming, like, you know, my accent, like BLOOMING with KK. On Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, I don't really beat it up much. Don't worry about it. My coaching website is Kristina Knowles Coaching at KristinaKnowlesCoaching.com. I was gonna give you all my email. KristinaKnowlesCoaching.com.
Well, where can people email you at?
KristinaKnowlesCoaching@gmail.com. Okay. And that's Kristina with a K, Kristina. Knowles like Beyonce. Don't get it wrong now, because I will tell her. And I have a YouTube channel. I don't be on there that much no more though. But if you want some like fun, like behind the scenes, not coaching stuff, Kristina Knowles on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll tag your YouTube channel.
Cool.
But thank you all for, you know, all your love and support. Thank you, Kristina, for coming on the episode. I greatly appreciate it. And you know, hopefully we can share some more time on the podcast.
I enjoyed it. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, see y'all next time.
Thank you.